Alright guys, welcome back to the Masters Final here at Next Gen Game in Los Angeles, the final PC of 2017. I am Regina.
And I am Eugene Vizzle, and it's very good to see you.
Definitely saw you guys a lot earlier than I thought we were going to. So on your screen right now, we've got Peter versus Jackson. We just saw Peter's really fun Trick Room team, really good. We've seen Peter be able to make very good calls and very good choices after fighting his opponent like once. So now we've got Jackson's team up on here. So on Jackson's side, we've got Alola Persian, we've got Kartana, we've got Tapu Fini, we've got Alola Marowak, we've got Celesteela, and we've got Garchomp.
And on Peter's team, we see that Porygon 2, Hariyama, Magnezone, Araquanid, Mimikyu, and Mudsdale. We saw Porygon 2 do a ton of work in that last round against Garrett.
I think though that Jackson's team has a little bit better chance against Peter's kind of Trick Room things because it's a bit more balanced in terms of counters to Peter's team. Also on Jackson's team, there are Pokemon that will benefit from that Trick Room if Peter does get it up.
Right, and we see that Persian on Jackson's side with access to both Quash and Fake Out. Very good for the speed control.
I will say this, having talked to Jackson, that Celesteela of his is going to be really fun to see when he brings, if or when he brings it out. It's going to be something I think that if Peter hasn't played him yet, is going to be something that he'll have to consider. It is definitely not your average sort of Celesteela on here.
Right, and Alolan Persian usually running really fast and does have the ability for Coat, so we can take probably a hit or two from Peter's side.
So Jackson's taking a bit of time to figure out his team, which, you know, in his circumstance, I completely understand. This is your finals match, and Peter's team lending itself, like showing itself like to a Trick Room team, and kind of probably having to figure out how he's going to counter that and how he's going to have to play it against Peter's like side.
Right, and Jackson taking all of his time to choose his leads.
I think like it's one of those things where it's like a really tough kind of call to do, and you don't want to make that like wrong like game one choice because that can upset you for the entire like rest of the round.
Right. And here we go, kicking off the Masters Final of the very last PC of this format.
So from Peter's side, I can't even say those names. So we've got Alola Persian and we've got Kartana against that Porygon 2 and Hariyama. So really familiar strategy from Peter's side. I like that he went with Porygon 2 after last round where he realized that Mimikyu wasn't really the best choice, I think, in these matchups.
So seeing here Hariyama and Shigwa.
Sword dude, I get it. So Jackson really, I think, made some good choices on here in terms of Pokemon to send out on here, kind of rightly predicting that this Trick Room set is going to be up on here. Can do some good damage. Has to be really careful with that Hariyama and it like that close combat onto his Kartana right now.
I do see Hariyama going for a Fake Out onto Kartana. We do see Fake Out preventing Porygon 2 from going on Trick Room, and we do see again Fake Out.
So double Fake Out on here.
Right.
Really good turn one for everyone, I think. But I think the most important thing is Jackson made sure that Trick Room did not get up.
And Peter just gets that free Guts Burn on Hariyama.
But I think not being able to capitalize as much with Trick Room being up is going to be a little bit harder because we've seen that the crux of all of Peter's strategy has been getting that Trick Room on there. And so we see Jackson protecting his Kartana from any potential close combats on there.
And good the choice. Taunt onto the Porygon 2.
Jackson's not messing around right now. So there you go. So really good choices on Jackson's side. He's making sure that Peter cannot get Trick Room up, and he's protected his Kartana from there. So now I think Peter is in a bit of a corner because again we've seen him use Trick Room to his advantage really, really well.
Right, and we see that Jackson preventing Trick Room from going up, and also putting his Sword Dude in a very good position to Sacred Sword the Hariyama.
Alright, so Peter making the call to take back that Hariyama on there, sending out the Magnezone, which can actually kind of face these two Pokemon a little bit better on here. Foul play going into the spot. Oh, with Porygon 2 on there.
Well, Porygon 2 did get that attack boost from download, so I could see where that comes from. And we do see the all-out pummeling, most likely going into that Magnezone spot.
I think if it went to the Porygon 2, though, that also wouldn't be like a bad choice because at least that way when the taunt runs out, Jackson knows that that Trick Room cannot go up. And it's one of those things where it's a very like crux of the matter.
And we do see it in the Porygon 2, right.
Because I think it's one of those things where even though he has taunted it, as soon as that taunt runs out, he doesn't want to have that out there for it to be able to use Trick Room. I think Jackson has a couple Pokemon that can kind of deal with all of Peter's Pokemon on there, but he has to make sure that Trick Room does not get up, because if that Trick Room gets up, Jackson's going to be playing catch up as opposed to being on the offensive on here.
Right, and we see Kartana does get that Beast Boost, raising its attack, becoming a really big threat for both Magnezone and Hariyama with Sacred Sword, and of course we see this Persian can go for a foul play onto Hariyama and really do a ton of damage, considering Guts doubles its attack.
Right, and so now that we know that the all-out pummeling has come out from that Kartana, we know that it's not holding any sort of sash or like anything else like that. So even though if it was a potential sash and it was broken, at least Peter can use this to kind of like figure out information on here. And all right, Jackson, your nicknames are really throwing me off right now. They're really fun. So he's protecting this. So he's protecting again his Kartana on here. Hariyama having Fate though, so really good choice on Peter's side, making all those protects not very useful. Nice choice on Jackson's side, using Lightning Rod to his advantage, getting that plus attack on there. So very good choice, I think, for Jackson getting that switch in there. Yeah, so Jackson making good predictions on here. Peter, I think having to play a lot of catch up and not getting in that Trick Room is really hard for him.
So Magnezone coming out here,
which, you know, if I was Peter, I would switch out Magnezone too, because not being able to use this. Oh, did he? Oh, it would have been so good.
But that does still knock out the Hariyama with the +1 and a crit.
So now +2 Beast Boost Kartana on Jackson's side against like that Munsdale and the Magnezone in the back. Really hard for Peter to come back from this too. So stamina.
Oh wow, that did a lot of damage.
So we do have both of Jackson's Pokemon getting those pluses, one from the electric attack from Magnezone, and then Kartana's +2 for the Beast Boost for picking up those 2 KOs. So Magnezone's coming back out here, but it is coming out against 2 Pokemon that have raised stats that can do a lot of damage to his Pokemon, and with all of Jackson's Pokemon still like into play.
Right, and this Magnezone is threatened by Marowak, and Mudsdale's threatened by Kartana, so... And we do see the forfeit on Peter's side.
Which, you know, makes sense because Peter can't do a lot on there. Like, Jackson did a very good job from the get-go dominating those first 2 turns, despite the fact that both of them used Fake Out. He used that matchup to his best advantage. He stopped that Trick Room from happening, and he made sure that from that beginning, Peter was on the defensive.
Right, and good forfeit from Peter's side, honestly. Trying to preserve all of the information he can. Did not get any attacks off with that Mudsdale, and Jackson might not really know what's coming from it.
Well, so now I think Peter's really got to think, now that he knows that Alola Persian on Jackson's side can really just upset his entire strategy, recovering from that is going to be really hard, because we know that Peter's team works on his Pokemon being slow, but Jackson's team is good at countering that.
Right, and it would be very exciting to see what that Persian is running. We saw its first 3 moves, Fake Out, Taunt, and Foul Play, and it would be interesting to see if it's either running Parting Shot to lower the attacks of Peter's Pokemon, or maybe Quash to control the speed.
So I think, Jackson doing a really good job that first match. Peter he's coming back out with that same lead on here. He's gonna have to work really hard, I think, to figure out how he's gonna. I think he's gonna have to figure out how to stop this taunt on there. Jackson switching out the Tapu Fini instead for his Kartana. His
Calm Clam. Love that nickname.
I love this. And so the
we see the Fini really threatening that Hariyama. One Moonblast will most likely take it out, and we see the either Taunt or Fake Out coming out onto the Porygon too. Right. And we'll most likely see Fake Out on the Fini.
Which is fine, because both these people are protecting their Pokemon that they know are going to be what they need to use. But we do know that Persian does have Taunt, and if this is going to be a mirror of like what happened in that match 1, if Peter doesn't protect that Porygon 2 from any sort of Taunt, it is going to be very hard for him to make any sort of recovery.
Right,
especially
he really needs to take out that Persian, because as long as it's out on the field... so we see Parting Shot. That's the 4th move, right.
So Did you get it? So, good, comfortable switch in from that Magnezone to Hariyama. So Jackson trying to figure out what Pokemon he wants to see on here. And maybe we'll see that Trick Room come up this turn from Peter on there. So Moonblast going into the spot where Hariyama was. Good choice on Peter's side to protect his Hariyama that way.
Oh, so
nice.
Nice.
Oh.
Nice switch. So we don't see Trick Room. Not predicting the possible taunt, so very good choice on Jackson's side.
Yeah, Jackson has done some really good job predicting out here. Like, Peter not going for the Trick Room this turn was a little bit harder. I think it's one of those things where I think the hardest part about it is not knowing if that taunt was coming up, especially because, again, we didn't know what that last move was on the...
Right, and we see another Moonblast.
Getting the crit on there, nice. So Flash Cannon coming into that Tapu Fini slot, doing a good amount of damage on there.
That did a very solid amount of damage. And we see Substitute on the Marowak, not something we see very often there.
This will be
and
fun.
Trick Room comes up.
Alright, so Trick Room did come up this turn. So probably a little bit later than Peter really wanted on here, but I think hopefully he, we have seen him recover from things before. We've seen after his Hariyama was knocked out that he did manage to come back from that. And so, maybe like right now, like that Magnezone is going to be in that position to be able to hit that Tapu Fini. Even though the hard part is this Marowak being behind a Substitute and having that plus to its special attack because of Lightning Rod is going to be a little bit harder to counteract for Peter.
Right, and we did see last turn that Marowak is slower than Magnezone, so it will outspeed in Trick Room. So that Magnezone does have to watch out for possible Shadow Bones and Flare Blitzes, and Porygon 2 not really hitting much here.
I think it's just hard for Peter on here because of the fact that like Jackson's team is very well suited to counteract any sort of Trick Room. So that Hariyama coming back out, the Porygon going away, so like we've seen him do that before, so he can preserve it for later Trick Room setup. Oh, Celebration. Okay, so the Celesteela coming out on here, having a Misty Seed, I think really fun, really interesting on there. And yikes.
We do see that Shadow Bone taking out the Magnezone.
Misty Seed Celesteela, I love this so much. Missing a special defense, so gonna be able to take some really nice hits on there.
Yeah, and we do often see Misty Seed Celesteela running with its acrobatics, raising its attack after using an item.
Against Hariyama is really
very
good.
Yeah.
Like, Jackson's team is just really good at countering Peter's Trick Room team, and like.
Oh, so we do see the Celesteela protecting, and a
nice.
Rock Slide, right? Okay, gonna probably fade away that Marowak's defense, depending on how bulky it is.
Which is fine because at least that Marowak,
right.
Even though that it didn't take actual damage from there, and is a good place to like kind of just like.
Double targeting, and the Marowak will go down to the knockoff.
Good choice on Peter's side on there. So that Celesteela up on like this field, getting the Protect out, but much to the chagrin of like Jackson, I think, who probably did not want to see that Marowak go down here. So,
but he still does have the Persian at full health. Most likely gonna fake out that Mudsdale,
which would be a very good choice on there. And so hopefully that Celesteela will be able to get some damage out over here. We do know that it has that special defense boost, which against Hariyama and against the Mudsdale, not very good to have in that term. So we do know that Mudsdale is running Rock Slide now, so it's going to do considerable damage to that Celesteela regardless.
And Mudsdale is coming out, most likely predicting that fake out from the Persian.
All right, so there we go, getting that Porygon 2 out on there, which nice call on Peter's side.
Oh, faking out the Hariyama, very interesting.
Nice.
And acrobatics onto Hariyama. Very, very nice play. Hariyama will go down.
So smart call on Jackson's side. So we're gonna get that Beast Boost as well onto Celesteela. So he's getting that an attack Beast Boost.
Wow,
nice.
So that means that it's a very, very offensive Celesteela we have here.
This is a scary Celesteela now.
Scary Steela.
So Jackson, I think, has made some very, very good calls on here, and I think Peter has, I think, just from game 1 been playing catch up on here. That turn 2 in this match specifically, where Jackson had switched out that Marowak into that Thunderbolt from Peter's Porygon 2, really kind of hurt him, because if he had been able to trick him that turn and him been able to get it up, I think we would definitely be seeing a different game right here, right now.
And we see the high horsepower coming out onto the Persian. Of course, that fur coat doing a very, very, very good job at protecting it. Ooh, and we see the berry.
Very nice. And that Celesteela now in a place to be able to get an attack out, and it's already at +1 on its attack, so doing a lot of
wow,
good
that did a
damage.
lot.
Going for the taunt on the Porygon. So right when Trick Room expires, we will not see another Trick Room coming out from Peter. So good play on Jackson's side. And he's still got his last Pokemon in the back right now. That Mudsdale is going to be really threatened by all the Pokemon on here, even though it's at full health.
Right, and we see the foul play coming out into the Porygon 2. Right, of course, the attack boost. And we see both players shaking hands, knowing that this match is heavily in Jackson's favor.
I mean, I'm not going to stay and fight against a +3 like attack Celesteela when I've only got like a Mudsdale on the field. So really, really good job.
Close combat, of course, not going to do very much to that Celesteela. Very interesting how we can both take hits and do a ton of damage. We see the Misty Seed raising its special defense, most likely invested somewhat in physical defense and attack.
And I think just Jackson's team, again, is a really good counter to Peter's team on here. Very, very smart. And he played very well, I think. I mean, hey, if they're still playing here, I think Peter might think he has, Peter is holding on to that chance that he has on there. That Celesteela, though, again, it's got a good plus, because of those Beast Boosts on there. So we've got the Tapu Fini back out on the field. Calm Clam, love it. Acrobatics going into there, of course getting that damage boost on there, that +3, and the acrobatics. So this round and the tournament going to Jackson.
Good job,
very
Jackson,
good job.
champion of the last VGC 2017 Premier Challenge.
That's a nice way to end the year, I think, on here. So thank you guys for joining us, and happy holidays, and have a good New Year. We'll see you
See you
January
next time.
1st.